Okay, so in the last video, we talked about how we kind of showed how these are actually all reciprocals of each other, right? Sine is the reciprocal of cosecant, and it goes both ways, right? Goes both ways. So using that, we're now going to look at some expressions, and we're going to try to simplify these down as much as we can. All right. So for our first one, we have the sine of theta times the cosecant theta over cotangent theta. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to set this up into like one big monster fraction, right? So I'm going to put my main fraction bar up here. And then we're going to have sine of theta. And because I know I'm going to be dealing with a lot of fractions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write sine of theta right away as its own fraction. I'm going to treat this as a fraction, and I'm going to treat this as a fraction, and just one fraction over another fraction. And then when we get those simplified, we'll remember what we got to do to clean these up. Okay, so I'm going to write sine of theta as a fraction, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to write sine of theta over 1. Okay, and then it's multiplying by cosecant of theta. But if you remember cosecant of theta, I'm going to take cosecant of theta, and I'm going to write it as 1 of sine over theta, right? And I'm going to use this, and I'm going to replace this with this. So I'm taking this, and that's what I'm going to put in. All right, so I'm going to go times the 1 of sine over theta. Okay, and now on the bottom, cotangent of theta, I'm going to just write out as 1 over tangent of theta. All right, I'm going to go 1. I'm just going to leave it big over tangent of theta like that. And we'll leave it like that. I lied. I'm not going to leave it big. It looks terrible. Um, 1 over tangent theta. All right. And so this looks a little scary right now, but let's just kind of go through with this. And so I rewrote when you have two things that are multiplying by each other, the kind of the general overarching philosophy is you're going to take one of them and usually and rewrite it. Okay, and then once you do that, then you'll kind of have a starting point. And you basically the way these work is you just sort of play around with them until you get something, right? And that's kind of how I've always approached. So now, because I'm doing this, right, I'm going to break this down a lot slower than how I would normally do it because I just want to be really clear. So we have the sine of theta times 1 over 1 times the sine of theta. Okay, and then that's all over 1 over tangent theta. All right, wonderful. We're doing great. Next step would be to multiply these, right? And you get sine of theta over sine of theta all over 1 over the tangent of theta. Okay, so if we're going to continue simplifying this, well, anything divided by itself is 1. And so that's why I didn't go right away to the whole cancellation idea. But that is essentially what you would do is I would go from here to here and see that and go, oh, that's going to be 1. Okay, but I want to show you why. So that's why I did that. And we have 1 over 1 times the tangent of theta. All right, and now 1 over 1 times the tangent of theta is the same thing as 1 times, and now it's keep, change, flip. So keep this, change this, so we're, right, change the sign to multiplication, and then we're going to flip this. The tangent of theta over 1. Well, your 1's, right, don't do anything, and you're just left with the tangent of theta. And now the other way you could have done this, all right, is you could have looked at this and you could have left tangent of theta how it was and went, or cotangent of theta how it was, right? And when you got to this point, you could have said, oh, instead, right, I had 1 over cotangent theta. Like if we never changed this, if we left this as cotangent of theta, left this as cotangent theta, right? Never changed that, just left it. If I would have done that, right, you'd get 1 over cotangent theta. Well, 1 over cotangent theta is tangent of theta. So they'll both get you to where you're going. I want you to understand how it works both ways because later on you're going to use more of that that fraction, using the fractions and kind of the mechanics behind those of how those work. All right. Okay, let's try the second one here. I'm going to quickly erase my mess. All right, and so for this one, okay, the way this is going to work is we're going to do sine times cosecant, right? So we're going to go, so we're going to change one of them. So I'm going to put this sine of theta over 1, and I always like to write at things in terms of sines and cosines. So I'm going to write cosecant as 1 over sine. So that's this is the one that I changed, all right? Now plus, I'm going to rewrite secant theta as cosine of theta, so 1 over cosine of theta, and then I'm going to leave cosine theta how it is, except, and put it over a fraction, and then tangent theta, I'm going to leave as tangent theta, and then I'm going to rewrite cotangent theta as 1 over tangent theta. All right, so pretty simple here. We'll put that over 1. And what happens here is sine of theta times 1 is sine of theta, all over 1 times sine of theta. And I think you can see where this is going. You're going to have 1 times cosine of theta on top. So you have cosine of theta over cosine of theta plus tangent of theta over tangent of theta. All right. And then it's just a matter of remembering how division works, right? If you divide something by itself, you always get 1. So that's where that whole cancellation idea comes in. So you get 1 plus 1 plus 1, because these cancel and form 1, these cancel and form 1. So if you're adding 1 3 times, that is 3. And so this whole thing equals 3. We get all of that just from kind of some generic fraction work, right? Pretty rudimentary stuff, but used in a very new and weird context. So if you're kind of still looking at this and sort of going, I don't know, you know, I get you, but stay with it. Stay with it and keep trying. All right, I am going to pause the vid here, and then we are going to do our last little bit of the lesson.